Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us. Congressman,
Hey, y'all. I'm from Texas. She's from Alabama.
kind of a slow news day, so we appreciate you making
Yeah,
time.
it was.
Yeah.
Very dull.
Yeah.
How's it, everybody?
So my first question,
Yes.
have you read the transcript?
I have skimmed through it and read most of it, but I will admit it was such a busy day. We were just saying it's such a strange time because usually you have a lot of time to process things. So I've read through it. My general sense, full disclosure, I'm a Republican. I noticed on the list of speakers there weren't a ton of us that were here. So I'm very much a pro-Trump Republican. I represent a district that is very pro-Donald Trump, and so I say that only to give you perspective of where I'm coming from. But what I had heard yesterday was that the president was guilty of offering something in exchange for something. I didn't see that today, and one of the points of contention and the complaints that we on the Republican side have is that yesterday Democrats were just so quick to say, let's officialize this. And Nancy Pelosi came out and said, let's make this official. The president is obviously guilty of XYZ. Why not wait until everything came out today? And so today I saw kind of some statements backing her up, but there's not outrage in the street like I thought there'd be. Tulsi Gabbard, who's running for president, I don't think anyone questions her liberal credentials. She came out this afternoon and said that the transcript doesn't justify an impeachment. So we're trying to figure out on the Republican side what the plan is next for Democrats because it seems to be ever-changing, but the constant is that there's a contingency that wants to impeach the president, and they want to keep this going. Mm-hmm. You can interrupt me at any time.
I'm transfixed. Based on what you did skim, did you feel there was anything untoward that was said?
Anything on what?
Untoward, bad.
Oh,
not ideal.
I don't love and I've told the president, I don't agree 100% with anyone, including my wife. It doesn't mean I don't support my wife 100%. Maybe that's a bad example. But I use that back home when people say, you're just in lockstep with the president. Well, I support the president 100%. But occasionally there are things that I don't agree with. And the president doesn't expect anyone to agree with him 100% contrary to the narrative. But the transcript, I didn't really love bringing that up because in my mind, I have moved on from the 2016 fight. But I understand where he was coming from. He shoots from the hip. He's not traditional. He's not someone that is a politician that has a watchful eye in the way that a seasoned politician thinks about things. So I understood where he was coming from. I don't think he said, I don't think his intention or his statement said, I'm going to withhold funding until you do X, Y, Z. And I also think there's a slight double standard because if you had Donald J. Trump under investigation and the president had a prosecutor fired, which was something similar with Vice President Biden at the time, there would be just outrage if things were flipped. And the outreach doesn't seem to be there, that Vice President Biden would be bragging about getting a prosecutor fired in another country. And there just seems to be double standards, and that's a narrative that plays well with the American people because it's not a narrative as much as it is factual. The American people, the average American is not sitting in a fancy room spending a lot of money to hear people like me talk. The average American is at work, and maybe they watch the news, but they don't keep up with things like we do. And they don't support impeachment as a whole, and the polling doesn't support that. That's why Nancy Pelosi has been so against moving in the direction that she moved until yesterday. And that's also why the Democrats are not going to put up for a vote this impeachment resolution. This is the first time in the last 25 years the U.S. House has begun an impeachment inquiry 3 times.
Okay, before we get into history,
Sure.
I got a lot I want to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead. You got 15 minutes and 28 seconds.
To talk about or to frame what you read in the transcript as, I don't agree with everything the president says. We're not talking about, the capital gains tax or something. This is not sort of about the nuance of policy. And one thing that was laid out, it was not just related to 2016. President Trump very explicitly asked Zelensky to look into Joe Biden and Joe Biden's family. That it seems pretty clear that he wanted aid in investigating a political foe. So my question then for double standards would be, if you were to learn that Barack Obama had asked the leader of a foreign power to look into Mitt Romney, would you not be up in arms about that?
Well, let's move forward and say if we were... I haven't even answered the question. Calm down. The transcript, and I should have brought it with me. I don't have it with me. But if I recall, the exact words weren't, please investigate my political opponent. The president was talking about a history of corruption that the president has been on a eviscerate corruption kick since he took office. That's why he got elected. And the message, I believe...
Hey, y'all, stop.
The message was that the president wanted this corruption allegation to be investigated and seen through, and he said it. But he didn't say, I'm going to withhold these funds. There wasn't a quid pro quo. What he did was not impeachable. It may be something that Mitt Romney doesn't like. He said that. But I don't think when you have the presidential candidates running against him saying this is not an impeachable offense, I don't think it's something that if Nancy Pelosi knew yesterday that she would have come out and said we need to open up this impeachment inquiry.
If asking, again, the leader of a foreign nation to investigate your political rival is not grounds for impeachment, or at least a statement saying this was wrong, what is?
High crimes and misdemeanors. That's not what that was. If it was, then that's all you'd be hearing today from Democrats. The Democrats are not saying there's a smoking gun here. When you've got leaders in the Democratic Party who won't even put up a vote for impeachment, then I would tell you that you should ask Speaker Pelosi that same exact question. Because Democrats, the senator, I don't even remember who it was, but it was a good quote. He said if Democrats want to impeach the president, then they should go on Amazon and buy a spine and actually do it. Because what you saw yesterday was not any change in what's been happening. The last 6 to 9 months of this, nothing changes by what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday. What she did yesterday that was different than what's happened is Nancy Pelosi formally herself came out and said she supports what's been happening, because an official impeachment inquiry, a formal one, has to be voted on by the House. So I would ask you to ask the Democratic committee, or the caucus, the same question. If this is not an impeachable offense, then what is? Because if this is so impeachable, why aren't they putting it up for a vote? And the answer to that question is Democrats are not genuine in their desire to do a formal inquiry for impeachment of the president. We hear a lot of things about these purity reasons for impeaching the president. People say it's our moral obligation to have oversight. Well, if that's the case, put it up for a vote. Force people to actually go on record and say, yes, we need to open this inquiry. Maybe you're not to the actual impeachment vote yet, but why not put it up for a vote? And the answer to that question is the Speaker wants to protect the 31 Democratic members that are in districts that voted for President Trump. They want to continue to litigate the 2016 election as long as they can while protecting those 31 members and not forcing them to go on record. And I think that's what they're going to do as long as they can.
So you think Pelosi, in making public that she formally supports the impeachment inquiry, which procedurally, you're correct, has been happening with Nadler, you think she's just bluffing in terms of actually setting a timeline
I don't
for that
think
vote?
I don't know that she's bluffing. She hasn't set a timeline for a vote.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Think
you don't think she will, though?
I don't think she genuinely wanted to be on stage yesterday because I think she has put it off as long as she possibly could. And it got to the point where the majority of her members, certainly not all of them, because those 31 members are who they're trying to protect, because impeachment is such a low polling negative idea across the country. There's just not support for impeachment. Both sides would agree with that. And privately, it's something that those Democrats in those 31 swing districts talk about. They say, we're not quite there yet, we're not quite there yet. But I believe that the talk about we want to do this quickly, That's just not accurate, because they know that if they quickly impeach the president, then it goes to the Senate, where it dies. It's over. He's either acquitted or it's not taken up. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I don't know if they can if they can let it linger, but I am confident, and I think just about everyone in this room, no matter your political persuasion, would probably agree that the Senate is not going to convict Donald Trump. So if that's the case, and you know the Senate's not going to convict the president, then from a strategic perspective, if you're the Democrats, then you just want to drag this out as long as you can and make it political, and make sure that if you're going to go down this route, if your far left wing of your party is going to force you to go down this route, then let's see if we can get some good dirt that will stick. So far they haven't. It's difficult to defend the transcript that we're talking about, but it's not an impeachable thing. If it was, everyone would be saying, "Oh, this is it. He's finished." No one's saying that. But the Democrats know that even if they choose to go down that road, formally impeach the president, they're not going to get a conviction in the Senate. And so the thinking among the Democrats is, we've either got to carry this out and hopefully we'll get lucky and get something on him that sticks, or we're going to just keep this going so we can bloody him up as much as we can through the next election cycle, because there's nothing passing. If you recall, 3 weeks ago, there were Democrats saying we need to cancel the recess, come back to Washington, and pass XYZ gun control bill. None of that has happened. Nothing. That was a crisis 3 weeks ago. No one's even talking about it now. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Canada is going into elections in a month or two, I believe. What happens if Trudeau loses? Do we start all over? That's a bill that has broad bipartisan support. Speaker Pelosi won't bring it up because it would declare a victory for the president. No one's talking about passing any of those things now.
But I mean,
and
a big thing changed today. I mean, it was revealed to us in this transcript, and you said it's difficult to defend. So I do want to be clear. Do you think it was wrong that Trump asked Zelensky to look into Joe Biden?
I don't know the background for everything that was said in that transcript, and I will be honest, I haven't read it in depth, so I'm hesitant to comment and say this was wrong or that was wrong. No, absolutely. I have not had anything to eat all day. I'm actually, anyway, it's been a busy day. It's unusually busy. Most days are not like the last 48 hours have been, even though days in Washington are usually pretty busy. But the interference in elections, I believe, is something that foreign powers don't need to be involved in any way, form, or fashion. But the problem is a credibility problem by Democrats, because we heard for so long that once the smoking gun came out with the Russia investigation, that everyone would be on board. And then we heard that once this transcript came out, that there would be some huge smoking gun. There's really not a smoking gun. If there was, then everyone would be saying, here's the smoking gun, we've got to impeach him. If it's so bad as you say it is, why won't Democrats take a vote on it? Why won't they take it up for a vote? Why is one of the presidential candidates who's in the next debates, she's a legitimate candidate, saying that this is not an impeachable offense? The answer is because it's not. And so because you don't like something the president did, whether you think it's wrong or right, the answer is, was it legal? And there's no laws broken. If there were, then you would have heard about it. And so Democrats are now thinking about, what do we do next? What can we investigate that we haven't already found to hopefully see if something sticks?
I have one final question before we open it up to questions from the audience. What do you think that oversight properly exercised looks like? Because the White House counsel's office has been pretty total in its refusal to turn over documents, to comply with subpoenas. I mean, to the point that, Hope Hicks won't even answer where her office was in the White House. At what point is Congress simply unable to do its job?
So the answer to the unable to do its job is as long as I've been alive, it seems, the last 20 years, they've been unable to do their job. I've only been in office for 9 months. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I don't have a wonderful answer for you about what proper oversight is, but I can talk all night about what it's not. and I'll give you an example. Hiring a special prosecutor to investigate whatever your topic is. If there's an officer of the federal government that you think has done something wrong, if you go out and you hire a special prosecutor and then they come back and say there is nothing that warrants impeachment in this in my findings, then you don't disregard that and continue a witch hunt. And that's what's been happening here. We were told that there would be some smoking gun. We were told what a wonderful man Robert Mueller was and how we needed to respect him and his ruling, and that whatever he came out with would be fair. It's unbelievable to think about how disappointed Democrats were the day that he rolled out that report. There was visible frustration and sadness among many of them that there wasn't something juicy in there that would warrant a good impeachment. And we move forward to today. Again, there's nothing that warrants impeachment, and they know that. If they had something that they could impeach the president on and justify, they would bring it up and vote on it. They won't even vote on it. And I think it's sad that we've got a president who should be meeting with leaders in the United Nations. He should be coming from a position of strength. Instead, 3.5 hours south, the U.S. Congress is talking about impeaching him. It's difficult to have meetings with foreign leaders when the dialogue is that you're being impeached. People in other countries don't really understand how our process works. They hear the word impeachment, they think that means you're just going to be kicked out of office. But the answer to your oversight question is what's been happening for the last 9 months is just not it. If the House majority were capable of proper oversight, then they would have wrapped this up long ago.
All righty. Let's open it up for questions. I'm sure you all could give great speeches. I don't want to hear them right now. So make sure you're asking an actual question, and please be respectful.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Ed, and I'm just a curious person. I'm not with an organization. Oh, you want me to stand up? So we talked about the transcript. What was your perspective on the withholding of the whistleblower report, which Congress required to be provided? Is that impeachable if the administration refused to do something that Congress enacted in law?
So it's my understanding that the whistleblower report is going to be released. Is that your understanding?
Today, the White House said that it might do that, and I think as early as tomorrow is possible.
Yeah, so it's to comment on the hypothetical what ifs would be not a great use of anyone's time, but I believe that it's going to be released, and that should help things out. And I'm not calling on people, so whoever gets the mic, I think.
Okay. Yeah, 7 hours ago, you tweeted about this. You stated that they got the report, no violations of the law, Donald Trump. Like, you know what you said. You hadn't read it. How could you be
No, I said I have kind of skimmed through it. I haven't read it in detail.
But you didn't read it. At 7 hours ago, you were reading it?
I think I answered the question for you.
I don't think so, but go ahead.
Sure. Should I stand or sit? Okay. Hi, my name is Serena. Thank you for being here today. So you, in your last answer, alluded to the fact, or you said verbatim, that you believe the Russia investigation to be a witch hunt, and kind of alluded that you felt the same way about this newly released document. And you did make clear your thoughts about whether technically this document constitutes an impeachable offense, but it seemed, sorry, I'll make it a question, not a statement. Do you believe that Congress should be giving presidents the benefit of the doubt concerning whether or not they intend some kind of malintent in their communications with a foreign government? Do you believe that any measure of investigation into seemingly suspicious acts is warranted, or, as suggested in your last answer, the president should speak to the UN from a position of power, et cetera, Congress should step down and defer to the president and give them the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, they probably meant well by this, because,
So the problem is you're talking about a body led by a group. The body is the U.S. House. The group is the Democrats, that doesn't have credibility with the president or with the other half of the chamber, which is me and Republicans. And when I say that, I point to recent experience. A recent experience is that the 2016 election results have not been respected. They're angry, and they're just unhappy about it. And because they haven't been able to defeat the president at the ballot box, and they're not sure they're going to get him next time, that they need to go down this investigation route, which they did, hired an independent prosecutor. He conducted a very lengthy special investigation and didn't come up with what they wanted to come up with. So yes, Congress needs oversight. Congress needs to investigate wrongdoing. But the problem is you've got a group that won't even admit that what they're doing is something that is not even approved. You've got an impeachment inquiry that's not even a real impeachment inquiry. If there was something actual, some meat behind this, if people in Congress were really on board, and this was for pure values and the intentions were really that great, then they wouldn't have a problem taking a vote on it. But it's not about that. It's all political. The reason they're not taking a vote is to protect some of their members from having to take a difficult vote, and also because they couldn't cobble the votes together. Back in July, we took up an impeachment vote. It failed. A majority of the Democrats didn't even support it. So the problem is this is not a matter of a typical investigation by a respected body. They've lost credibility because this wonderful man, Mr. Mueller, who did his investigation, came back with facts that they didn't like, and there was nothing to it. So that's why we use the term witch hunt, is because the results came back, they weren't what Democrats wanted, and they've continued down this path of witch hunt and smearing the president. They're not sure they're going to be able to beat him in the next election, and I predict that after what they did yesterday, that they won't. I'll also give you some insider information. As disgusted, we're getting an inside. Do we have to stop?
Yeah, that means we have to stop.
Okay, you won't get
If
the
you have
insider
a
information then.
5-second
Sorry.
thought you want to wrap up really fast?
I was going to say this. Republicans, as disgusted as we are with the process, as an American, as a member of Congress, I'm disgusted with the process. I'm frustrated that Democrats have chosen to go this route, that they don't even have the nerve to put it up for a vote. If you're a Democrat in this room shaking your head at everything I'm saying, then you should call your member of Congress, if they're a Democrat, and say, if this case is so strong, why aren't you guys putting it up for a vote? Why would you give the Republicans that great talking point that for the first time in 25 years, we're going to open an inquiry without even putting it to the vote of the people? That's something everyone in this room should be for. And the reason I bring that up is, as an American, I'm outraged. As a strategist who wants to win back the majority for my party, Republicans are quietly loving every bit of this. Why? Because we believe it will ensure that Donald Trump gets reelected next year. And as outraged as Republicans are, privately, we're thinking to ourselves, well, at least we're going to keep the White House.
Well, let's see if that prediction ends up true. Thank you so much, Congressman.